Hey, we are back again. Yes, yet again. And this is Drum Boy Reads Slow, and we are on the comic review rampage. So I'm going to be putting the spotlight on a book that growing up I knew it existed. He was involved in the world of the Ninja Turtles, but never I never got to dip my toes in it. And for me to be here right now, I have to go. As an introduction here, I'm just saying this. Sorry for this. Is going to get kind of emotional for a second, but today's book, at a time of a personal low where I couldn't feel art anymore, I couldn't see the point. Music, playing music, reading a book, sitting down watching a movie, the point was lost, and I really should have been, talking to somebody. It's not good to go through those moments in life alone, but I have to say, I, I just, I just decided one morning. I'd been collecting this book. I was kind of curious. I was kind of overspending on comics, looking for different sources of distraction, and I had accumulated issues 1 through 5. Legacy, it's 275 through 279. Usagi Yojimbo by Stan Sakai. It was my first experience. Those 5 issues. It was an arc, a brand new story arc, supposedly. I do know that there have been a lot of color reprints of past issues, but I believe that there have been 2 new arcs, possibly 3. I'm not sure about Space Usagi. That might have been a past issue now in color. But there have been 2 5-issue arcs, and I'm gonna really focus in on this one in particular, The Crow. Because at a time in my life where I was dipping real low, Stan Sakai showed me how beautiful a comic book could be. There are titles that are not meant to be rated by some criteria. I've applied criteria to many titles to try and give you an accurate idea of what to expect, but this is not going to be one of them. Because it would be disingenuous of me to try and apply a number to a book whose value greatly exceeds what any number could ever describe. Stan Sakai, is a master storyteller, and he never shies away from the opportunity to show us good is all around us. So my little personal intro there aside, getting into first impressions on this story arc, this first story arc of the 2. The Crow brings us to Usagi and his cousin Yukichi. They look very similar. That's Usagi in the blue and Yukichi in the orange. They are traveling. The previous arc had been what was it? Ice and Snow. I forget. I have some of the issues, but I gotta complete it. But they are traveling and they're on the road and they're nearing a town, and they encounter this individual on a horse with a scar through his eye, and Usagi's like, "Don't I know you from somewhere?" But there's no time to really talk and make acquaintances again. This individual basically says, "Are you bounty hunters? What are you doing here? What are you in this town for?" And they assure him that they're not looking for trouble, but if he wants it, they'll find it. But but he tells them to keep on moving. But they eventually do make it to a town. Before they get there, though, they encounter what looks like a single individual being attacked by what they think are thieves. and they thwart this, band of thieves, or what they believe to be thieves, and help this individual who reveals himself to be by the name of Jimu, and he has a crow, like a pet crow, that's with him, and he seems like a good guy, and they part ways, and they wind up in a town, and they actually at this in this town they wind up in, they go to an inn for a meal and a night's rest, and they have some reward money to spend, and they encounter both the band that they had just thwarted, who they kick out of the bar, but they also encounter two more traveling swords for hire, in the way of a rhinoceros samurai and a dog samurai. The rhinoceros is named Jen, and the dog is Stray Dog. He has a more formal Japanese sounding name that he's introduced as later on, but yeah, you just call him Stray. And they are like, "What are you doing here, Usagi?" And everyone, introductions and everything. And what they find out is that this Jimu guy that they helped out is actually got a big bounty on his head, and he's like a famous criminal, and him and his crow are notorious for causing all sorts of trouble, and he's got a little band of bandits, and he's just been causing chaos, and Usagi just let them off the hook. But so yeah, I mean, Jen and Stray, that's what they're there for. They're trying to get that bounty. There's a big reward, dead or alive, and lots of the bandits that work for him also got bounties. So it's just this big reward that they're after, and they're like, well, it's a kind of a good thing that you thwarted those bounty hunters, because we want to be the bounty hunters that get this kill. So anyhow, it all starts out with that, and first impression is that I never expected such a storybookish, approach to comics to be so effective. Stan Sakai literally takes you so far into the comic with it seems so simple. There's no being sophisticated on my end as a reader. He's already done all the legwork masterfully, so that I can I probably could have picked up in issue 3 and been just as satisfied, well, not just as satisfied, but this hit me right away. This was my first experience, and I just was instantly addicted. This filled up a single morning. I was just blown away. And so as we dip into issue 2, Usagi's cousin wants nothing to do with it. He's a samurai still. He's not a Ronin like his cousin, and so he's on the fence about the whole thing. He storms out, and while he's out, he ends up he actually gets lured into an alleyway by a little kid going, "Help me, help me!" And it turns out to be this little orphan in town who's gotten some money from that band that recognized these two samurai bunnies. And so Yukichi walks into a trap, and he gets taken hostage. And as we are kind of figuring out what is all going on, Usagi's like, "Wait, where's Yukichi?" And he ends up getting taken to this hideout, and it turns out the biggest competition in the bounty race is I think it was Boss Inuyoshi and his band of bounty hunters. And so we meet him, and it turns out to be the horse riding guy with the scar. So Yukichi is tied up and debating, and he's kind of like, "You're a bounty hunter, and like you lost your honor," and they have like this real sophisticated, I know I just said, but they have a really deep conversation about honor, and like what Boss Inuyoshi is more or less kind of defending his stance, how the need to provide for oneself and to keep I mean, he's not a bounty hunter just for nothing. It's for survival, and so he tries to defend that stance. And meanwhile, his bandits are like, man, we just got to kill this guy. We just got to kill him. We don't need this hostage. Inuyoshi's like, no, I give him my word. Like, he's just leveraged to push that group of bounty hunters out of town while we do our thing. We're not gonna kill this kid. And so one of his bandits tries to turn on him because he thinks that he's a weak leader. And our captive cousin, Usagi's cousin, has the honor to warn Inuyoshi of the attack, and so they kind of get this little measure of respect after Inuyoshi, dispatches of the treachery. He doesn't kill him, but he teaches him a lesson, and so you start to see that his old samurai ways are, still like, there's a sense of honor, and it's a big theme. There's a lot of themes here going on as we go forward with this. The whole, the samurai versus bounty hunter thing, that along with some, some of the I'm losing my words here. You'll have to forgive me, but the whole thing with the bounty hunters, the whole race going on, it's really infectious. You get really into it. Where things get really interesting is towards the end of this, where the two main character bands of bounty hunters, so Usagi and his group and Boss Inuyoshi, they all have this big confrontation, and what they end up deciding is, based on some recon from Inuyoshi's one of his guys, kind of witnessing and following Jimu's little army that has just pulled off another big heist and killed a lot of people, trying to protect this traveling merchant. The guy thought that he hired enough goons to keep his product safe, and it turned out Jimu's army was a lot bigger than anyone suspected. So these two bands of bounty hunters decide to join forces. And what ends up happening is this very, very, very moving battle where, there's chaos going on, and Jimu flees, but Inuyoshi, he's the main guy who's able to kind of tail him, and they have this battle, just the two of them alone, and that nefarious crow interferes, and it's just enough of a distraction. Inuyoshi does manage to kill the crow, but his own life is ended. He's still, with us, but just as he's about to be, brutally finished off, just as he's about to be slain brutally, Usagi's younger cousin, Yukichi, is there just in the nick of time, and so what we have is this really touching moment where this former samurai turned bounty hunter, he passes away, but he passes away with a sense of honor, and Yukichi, and he takes his sword as a gift, and there's they had this beautiful exchange about, restoring honor to the sword's legacy, and Yukichi tries to tell him that he's going to, bring honor to it and make him proud, and it's too late, one of those moments. But it's really the culmination of everything. This may have been one of the funnest comics I have ever read, one of the easiest reads I have ever read. My respect for Stan Sakai and his ability to just spoon feed me a good time, but not only a good time, a inspirational time. He resuscitated me with this, and maybe the the cartoonish approach to this isn't your thing, but if you think that there's absolutely no adult themes, back to those adult themes. I really wanted to just demonstrate what I mean, but very cartoonish, you know, and there's the same guy, and now he's gone. So yeah, it is all ages, but the storytelling, it's not gonna send you, you know, searching. You're not gonna have to ask too many questions. All you have to do is sit back and read. And if you're lucky enough, if you don't drop the book, if you're lucky enough to make it to the end of this, um that orphan character. So with the bounty hunters, so many of them die. Stray Dog. There's this concept about the reward. Like, oh, we want the reward, but they also are kind of counting on a, you know, there's going to be a lot of deaths. So there's going to be the split is not going to be so severe. You know, the people who survive are going to get more money, and Stray Dog is just like good. You know, like nobody came behind us. All the other guys are dead. Yukichi doesn't want his because he has too much honor to take money for uh, following through on justice. Okay, great. More money for me. And there's this really, Usagi just can't stand it anymore. He's like, how can you be so, like, cold? How, like, what is wrong with you? And Stray Dog's like, if we don't take care of ourselves, who will, you know? And it's, Usagi's like, get out of my sight. You disgust me. And he just can't take it anymore. Stray Dog just being in it for the money and having no compassion for the slain. And so we fast forward to months later. And this is the big spoiler. So if you want to, save this for yourself, turn off the video, give me a like and subscribe. Why not? But anyhow, what really got me, beyond anything else is that Stan Sakai already had me. He already won me over with issue 1 of this. The ending by issue 5 of the everything, the battle and everything that you were expecting to be part of the story, that was enough. And yet, four pages worth at the end of this little arc, you're taken to an orphanage, and Stray Dog comes in through the front door, and everyone's like, "Hey, Uncle Ukichi." I forgot his more formal name. I'm not gonna sit here and page through the book for it right now, like I did already. And he's got familiarity, and he knows them all, and they know him, and then he bows to the matron, that takes care, sees to the care for the children, and he goes, I need you to do a favor for me. And our little orphan character, he walks him in, and he's got a home finally, and it was kind of like, whoa, like Stray Dog. And so he drops off some gold, and they're like, this is going to last us months. And he's like, and I'll be back with some more later. And they're like, you've always been so kind. And I mean, a grown-ass man standing in his kitchen crying because a comic just hit him in the feels. That was me. And that's what Stan Sakai's stories are like. You get the perfect ending, and then you get the perfect ending. You get the perfect beginning, the perfect middle, and the perfect ending. And for what it's worth, these are the books you sit down with your kids when it's story time. It's just marvelous what this guy Stan Sakai is capable of. And for me, I'm not going to say this is the end all of comics, but if I had to keep it down to 5 titles, this would probably be one of them. Also, in the past year, we saw the release of Space Usagi. Again, I don't know if this is actually new material, but the story is excellent. Very cool to see this character played out in a completely different setting. It's like it's like it picks up like it's always been a futuristic story. There's not like a situation where he gets like teleported off of Earth. Not in this anyway. I really enjoyed this. This was a 3-issue arc called White Star Rising. I want to say it gave me a small Guardian, like the movie Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one, not any of the other ones, vibe, but not in that like James Gunn style of directing or anything. It just was like, it kind of just reminded me of that. Maybe also a little bit of Bucky O'Hare, but like that's a really vague comparison. This was really cool, and the ending is crushing. Also, according to the information I have found, there has been another 5-issue arc called 10,000 Plums, and I did read through this, and I did enjoy it. Not nearly as much as The Crow, because this is more like 2 stories inside the same arc. You get a 3-issue story that starts things out. It was decent. But it didn't grab me as much as The Crow. There was, however, a 2-issue arc that followed that. Long and short, I've already kind of gone through spoilers on one of these. I want you to read this arc. I do. I recommend it. But what I don't want to do is say it's just as good as The Crow. It was very good though. That's the 2-issue conclusion really moved me. There's not a lot of action in it. It's more of just a story, and I think it includes some actual, it's infused with some actual history of life in ancient Japan. So this is that's another thing about Stan Sakai. You'll learn a little bit because he's authentic. He puts authenticity into his books, so you learn a little bit. He doesn't leave you hanging on the cultural stuff. But what I can honestly say is it was another one of those just unbelievably really happy endings where, how can someone think so beautifully all the time? And so, yeah, it's a recommend. I have nothing more to say. I don't want to give a rating on this, because how do you rate this kind of work? There really isn't a rating. And I'm kind of I don't want people to think like I'm just here to push every single thing I got. But on this one, there ain't gonna be no criteria on it. This was way too personal for me. And I think you can make a personal connection to it too, or maybe you don't. Maybe you're not into something that kids should be allowed to read too. But I do absolutely recommend if you got a few extra bucks, saunter over to the youth young adult section and see if they're carrying Usagi, because I was blown away. It's probably been my my biggest surprise of all of comics since starting reading again. And you would never have seen me picking up like issues with the cute art or this kind of thing before this. I would have never have picked up things like DuckTales or any of that other stuff, just for the pure fact that it took me back. And I gotta thank Usagi Yojimbo. This was the book that kind of just the last of my curmudgeon status, the last of being too old for this or too old for that. It all went away. Artwork became artwork again. Life became beautiful again. Life became a game of trying to find, and not just say I'm lost, but trying to find. And I love that. I love that feeling, and this book gave that feeling. Thank you so much for tagging along. I didn't want to, I could show you more art, but this book was more about the feeling. The covers look just like the art on the inside. You get a very consistent flow on this stuff. And I just want you to give Usagi a chance. Please give me a like and subscribe, and we'll be back with more reviews tomorrow. Thank you.